ever thought long and deliberately about the power of words? The magic of words? The origin of words? How, in the very beginning, human beings experienced an impulse to make sounds and then give meaning to those sounds in order to communicate and interact? The way we use language to expand ourselves and our world at large. Writing is a 5,400-year-old practice that has evolved alongside humanity in different stages. We can even view language and the written word as a companion to evolution. We evolve our thinking, our possibilities, and our awareness the more we evolve our language to define that which was previously undefined or unacknowledged. Evolution is a creative process. And in this search for language, we gain more of ourselves. We must stretch to reach what we have not yet reached. Aim to understand what is not yet understood, and then tell about it. And in this very way, writing is an incredible tool for self-exploration, self-witnessing, self-understanding, and evolving. Your inner space is as vast and expansive as the outer space all around you. You are so full of wonders, so full of the pulse of life and mystery that you belong to. So wild with what is known and unknown beneath the veil of the ordinary. You can explore yourself every day for the rest of your life and still never encounter the whole of you and your potential. So you might as well start now. Whatever way you look at it, writing is a self-clarifying process. When I say self, I mean the entirety of you, as an amalgamation of varying qualities, attitudes, and potentials. Whether you are journaling, writing essays, poetry, screenplays, novels, or nonsense, you are clarifying yourself, your mind, your diversified desires, and your processes. Most of us know what it feels like to be so overgrown with tangled thoughts, and get to see that when we write them all out, put them onto a piece of paper, the absolute exhale that happens through that process, the release that occurs, as well as the opportunity to face our mess, our fears, our anxieties, our beauty, inspiration, and anything else on the human spectrum from a bird's eye view. And from that vantage point, it becomes easier to accept, navigate, and ultimately integrate these elements so that we are moving with direct intent to meet our clarified needs, desires, and impulses. My favorite journaling practice is writing out the dialogue between the parts of me that don't agree. For example, when the mind and heart don't align, I will dialogue a conversation between these aspects of me and allow them the opportunity to wrestle, so to speak, until ultimately they do agree, or at the very least, understand each other. And then I can make my choices based on that integration point. In working with different aspects of myself, I like to imagine a pizza place. What's important to remember is that every employee, i.e., every aspect of me, has the same aim: to make a good pizza. But each of these parts will have differing roles and needs that need to be established and act it out in order for the pizza to be made to the best of my ability. I have to consider when each employee needs to take a break. I need to consider any limitations one might have and cater to it. I have to make sure one employee isn't trying to take over the role of another. I have to make sure they are properly motivated, compensated, and so on. This sort of inner engineering, especially through journaling, is a great way to ease and repair inner conflicts and fractures, and to have a sense of cohesion between my impulses, my values, and my actions. Journaling is one of the most accessible ways to self-witness and clarify. Witnessing is a separate process from problem solving. It is a process entirely of its own, which engages in the act of alchemy, which is an inner transformation. But not the kind of transformation that goes from problem to solution, but rather the kind of transformation that goes from neglected to accepted, from repressed to expressed, from hidden and forbidden to seen and held, so that we don't see ourselves as problems to be solved, but rather a wide variety of emotions, attitudes, dispositions to be greeted and accepted, and to ultimately work within our given circumstance. Only when we accept and hold something as it is can we move, mold, and expand it. Dr. 𝖑𝖎𝖐 has said, "The opposite of depression is expression." As we age, we tend to turn in on ourselves and cave, rather than bloom outward into the world. We repress, deny, and hold ourselves back to such a degree that we can become shells of who we once were. We fade away. We become ghosts. We deny ourselves the opportunity to keep expressing ourselves with age, to become more of ourselves, to continue our unfolding outward to meet the world with the fullness of ourselves. Writing is a very easy form of expression that can be done in the privacy of wherever you are, between you and you, so that there's no need to hide, deny, or manipulate the truth about how you feel, who you are, and what you are conflicted about. What kills a soul? 𝖑𝖎𝖐𝖘 writes. Exhaustion, secret keeping, image management. And what brings a soul back from the dead? Honesty, connection, grace. When we pick up our pen, we can feel the parts of us which resist or reject whatever we are aiming to dive into. It is important not to simply push past these resistant parts of ourselves, but rather to probe them, find out what they need, what they are worried about, resistant to, and why. In addressing the resistance, we can cultivate greater safety and therefore a greater capacity to be honest. It is in this way we can find and develop our expressive voice. We can go confident in our expression. We can find that the more we express, explore, and cultivate our own inner atmosphere, the more comfortable we become in extending it outward to express, explore, and cultivate our outer environment as well. And I do like to make note of the fact that self-exploration and expression is never about perfection, but about wholeness, about not leaving any part of you out. Alignment means every part of you is in agreement with everything you are doing and aiming towards. Alan Watts says, "An integrated person is not a person who has simply eliminated the sense of guilt or sense of anxiety from his life, or who is fearless and wooden and a kind of sage of stone. He is a person who feels all of these things, but has no recrimination against himself for feeling them." Writing itself is one of the greatest tools we can use to know ourselves, what we think and why we think it, who we are, how we feel, who we want to be, and how to be it. The act of writing can easily frame us as investigators of ourselves, and in this way, we become less attached to our emotional nature in order to explore it from a cerebral point of view. We can make ourselves the scientist of ourselves. We can theorize and test and question and discover with greater capacity who we are, what is going wrong, what is going right, and how to continue in the most direct, functional, healthy, and wholesome way possible. Carl Jung says, "Somewhere, right at the bottom of one's own being, one generally does know where one should go and what one should do. But there are times when the clown we call I behaves in such a distracting fashion that the inner voice cannot make its presence felt." Human life has become so busy and stressful that most people have long forgotten their own inner voice. And the longer we go without reaching for that inner voice, the harder it is to become acquainted with it. When I say inner voice, I mean the part of you that holds the greatest conviction and devotion to your own values and vision. I mean, your inner voice is your inner authority, your power point, your will. By practice of writing, we can daily reach for ourselves in that way. We can connect and become familiar with our inner authority, and this function, when life's stresses and struggles fall upon us, we have access to our own inner guidance in order to navigate our circumstances without self-abandoning any single part of ourselves. The most stable confidence comes from an ability to question, explore, and stretch ourselves to meet ourselves where we are, while simultaneously guiding ourselves to where we want to be. This cannot come from any outside validation or peer pressure to be and do as others are and do. And this connection makes the rest of your expression strong, true, and magnetic. Your voice holds immense power. Your very breath impregnates the air with its essence. Imagine what your words do. Rudolf Steiner has taught us that our thoughts are a living force, and your voice gives them unseen form to be carried out into the infinite range of the ethers. We are born stewards of ourselves, of each other, of our atmosphere, our world, our universe. The more we intentionally cultivate our voice, the more responsible, creative, and life-giving we can become. Whether you are a poet, artist, musician, builder, maker, or otherwise, this connection to your inner authority will be the foundation of everything you extend yourself into. This is where your conviction around your values lies. It means your aim will not be to influence or impress an audience with your work, but rather to express honestly what is within you. I believe it is a nobler aim to inspire people to become themselves than to influence people to be just like you. It is the initial difference between a leader and a cult leader. To make space for others to determine what they think and feel and believe about something by making sure they have all the facts and information, rather than using selective honesty and force feed what you think they should feel, think, and believe about something. Perhaps if we all have this connection to our inner authority and moved from this connective point, we could live and connect with greater harmony through our diversity, in the same way a forest does. Trees grow differently than mushrooms. Ants live differently than spiders. Yet they share an ecosystem where everything has a role in a place to exist and move and grow. Which isn't to say that there is no overlap, conflict, or struggle. But even through that overlap, conflict, and struggle, if we are truthful first and foremost, we can navigate overlap, conflict, and struggle with confidence and an aim for cohesion within ourselves and hopefully others. We have to aim for honor, which is honesty. Honesty requires all parties to have access to all the information available regarding any certain issue. It requires a good faith dialogue in which everyone is direct about how they feel and what they think, without trying to manipulate the outcome or exploit another's vulnerability. And if that effort for transparency and honesty isn't reciprocated, it is of course appropriate and oftentimes necessary to move to a different part of the forest that you find yourself in. It so happens that we need to feel and cultivate safety for ourselves in order to be honest in the first place. And that begins with us and where we choose to place ourselves. We have to know that we are safe enough in our environment and within ourselves that we won't judge, deny, or reprimand ourselves for our thoughts, emotions, for them to be able to come into our complete awareness. If we can see thoughts and emotions as living entities, then we can become their mother and create a safe place within us for everything in us to be held and seen. This is self-responsibility. Then the thoughts and emotions can become relaxed within us over time and our deliberate attention to them. This focus is a gateway to understanding and growth. And this practice goes beyond personal writing as well. Whether we are writing a novel, an essay, an Instagram post even, our capacity to become a safe landing for feelings and ideas to be able to unfold under our careful attention makes us all the more aware and capable of expressing ourselves clearly and deliberately. This practice won't just make you a better writer, but a better thinker. It teaches how to grow our seeds of thoughts into completion, thereby creating a mental wholeness and fortitude. This clear thinking then becomes the foundation for the way we move in the world. And it is the wind that fans the flame of our being. Leonard Cohen said, "For me, art is the evidence of a life, and not the life itself. It's the ashes of something that has burned very well. And sometimes we confuse ourselves, and we try to create the ashes instead of the fire." This quote speaks largely to authenticity, because trying to create the ashes, so to speak, is being result-oriented, which denies the process and therefore any real substance and truth from being well represented within the result itself. The fire is your life, your struggle, your way. The fire is the process by which we obtain revelation, finding and placing the kindling, adding the wood, igniting the spark, fanning the flames, replacing the wood until the fire has served its purpose and fades out and leaves behind the ash, which is the result. But more than that, it is the way your hand specifically touched and interacted with the wood, the way your breath breathes life around the flame, the way you sing to it, tend to it. Your way will be your own. You can spend your energy trying to create a cheap imitation of ash, or you can expend nearly the same amount of energy by taking responsibility in how to learn how to make and sustain a fire, to build a skill, to learn something, to pay deep attention and find your way of moving through it, and to be changed by the end of the process. This is the stuff that makes good writing, as well as good thinking. All substance comes from a process. It is the difference between a poem that leaves you indifferent and wanting, and a poem that has stirred something within you to such a degree that something has changed. Language is such an integrated element of existing that we don't stop to ponder its significance, nor do we consider how we interact and make use of it. But when we take just 15 minutes at the end of each day to challenge ourselves in order to use language as a tool for exploration, understanding, connection, and growth, the more we utilize language to clarify ourselves, the easier it is to use language to express ourselves, to connect with others, and to expand our understanding of the world around us. To write is to express. The only rule is, tell the truth, or else it's meaningless. Writer's block often appears when we are no longer being truthful with ourselves, when we are trying to impress or seem a certain way, or to effect a certain outcome. In doing this, we are keeping ourselves hidden from ourselves. We are refusing to engage with the reality of what is within us and what is naturally coming forward to be expressed or worked through. And in this case, we have to take a few steps back in our process and cultivate safety for ourselves to receive our own insights and to be honest with ourselves. It is a practice in being direct, and thus it becomes a cycle that we can embrace and utilize in our daily life in order to be direct with ourselves and our environment, and ultimately move ourselves forward towards our aim. Language is a tool for evolution. It teaches us to expand our vocabulary in order to understand that which we don't. Literacy is truly an asset that we don't often treat as such, but it is so often the key to open up the secret worlds within us that want to be born. And you don't need to be a writer for this to be true. Just human. As Rilke so eloquently expressed in Letters to a Young Poet, write about what your daily life offers you. Describe your sorrows and desires, the thoughts that pass through your mind, and your belief in some kind of beauty. Describe all these with a heartfelt, silent, humble sincerity, and when you express yourself, use the things around you, the images from your dreams, and the objects that you remember. And if your everyday life seems poor, don't blame it. Blame yourself. Admit to yourself that you are not enough of a poet to call forth its riches. Because for their Creator, there is no poverty and no poor indifferent place. And even if you found yourself in some prison whose walls let in none of the world's sounds, wouldn't you still have your childhood? That jewel beyond all price? That treasure house of memories? Turn your attentions to it. Try to raise up the sunken feelings of this enormous past. Your personality will grow stronger. Your solitude will expand and become a place where you can live in the twilight, where the noise of other people passes by, far in the distance. And out of this turning within, out of this immersion in your own world, poems come. And then you will not think of asking anyone whether they are good or not, for you will see them as your dear natural possession, a piece of your life, a voice from it.